Welcome to second ever, I guess third. We did kind of an impromptu episode. So this is the second official episode of Scrap Time. My name is Ben Nissim. I'm here with the Goach, my guy Chris Crowder. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, dude. That was a great intro. Totally your first take. Yeah, I was impressed right there.
Totally the first take as Chris is chewing. I don't know what he's eating right now,
I'm
but it looks
eating
delicious.
a protein bar. It's a Go
Okay.
Macro protein bar, dude.
Okay.
Right?
That's listen.
It's
It's
fire stuff.
good choice. Yeah. I mean, if you guys have never watched the show before, Chris and I chat about CDL stuff. We have a pretty good set of topics to go through today. We'll eventually get guests. We try to get some guests on for this one. I might have some nibbles for next week.
Nibbles. Who's nibbling,
Yeah,
bro?
like people. I have a couple of people that are interested in hopping on.
Hmm.
Again, the problem is we record these in the morning, so any of the degenerate CDL players that don't wake up till like 2 hours before scrims are just like shocked for making the show. But we got some other people, some intellectuals we can bring on, Chris.
So we're just
People.
cooking the whole CDL. Jesus Christ, man! This guy came
Cooking
out swinging
some
today.
people. Cooking out some people in the CDL.
Calling people
not
degenerates,
all
dude. People
people.
are nibbling on you, dude. I don't know what's going on with you right now. Listen, dude. We have some guests, dude. I'll say it straight. Zuma hit me up a couple days ago. He wants to be on the show.
Tommy would be great on the show, but also requires him to wake up early. But
Yeah, he
also,
said he would.
I mean, Tom does wake up early. I mean, he's been dealing. Tom's problem in the morning is he's been, not to get too off topic before we hop in. Like, bro, Tom's been dealing with all this like new condo stuff. So he's been like having to wake up early and go
Yeah,
there.
he's a grown man, dude. He'll be awake.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
Trying to get blinds in his bathroom redone. I don't know, all this hilarious stuff he complains to me about. It's really funny. All right, but enough about Tommy's apartment. Let's talk. I think we're gonna cover in most of this episode some roster changes that happened last week as we get ready for the qualifiers, which will start off again on Friday. And then we'll talk a little bit about season 2 at the back end of this. And I have some questions and stuff on that front. So, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end, chat. So let's hop in. We're going to start with probably the big one, the one that probably most people want us to talk about. This is Optic Texas. A little bit surprising, I think. I thought they wouldn't change after Major 2, considering they got top 4, but very quickly, when people got back, it was apparent that something was in the mix there. And then they announced that DanGhosty coming over from Decimate Gaming, used to be on the Boston Academy team last year. That was a sort of breakthrough team with Doug. After the land win at Boston Open, DanGhosty makes his move to Optic, and that means that iLLeY will be moving to the bench. I think, Chris, you and I have talked about this before, but I guess kind of my question to you, because you've made a career of taking challengers or non-pros and making them like, world beaters, winning events, winning world championships. Shout out Dylan Attach. Like, do you like the move? And I think on the Optic side, like, what do you think the players need to do to make sure that Dan's kind of got everything prepared to really deal with the pressures of being a CDO pro?
I mean, it's like weird because I feel like with every team, I guess like in the CDL, like I think Optic's like a different beast in the sense of like being prepared to be in the CDL. I feel like most people, everyone's different, but a lot of people are just prepared by just playing. Like it's nothing different than play. Like, yeah, the competition probably gets a little harder and like the atmosphere is a little different, but like all you have to do is just like go out there, be yourself, to have some fun and do what you do. Like you can't like overthink it, and you can't like obviously half-ass it either. But I feel like with Optic, it's hard to like relate because I guess from never being a part of that organization, I feel like you have to really tune out social media and just really focus on like your own game and like, what you got with the team. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of opinions about that team in general, like more like they have the most fans, they have the most like, eyes on them. So for example, if they start off slow, like as long as he doesn't like get in his own head or like let that shit like affect him, I think he'll be fine. I think outside of that, picking up an amateur is either it's only a risk if like you don't have the best eye for talent, and I feel like obviously they trust like what they're picking up right now. Like I'm pretty sure I haven't seen Dan play too much myself, like as much as some other people have, but he seems to have like a lot of good things to be said about his skill and all that stuff. And like I've always been on that topic of like what you said. Like I don't think picking up someone like Attach back then was a risk. I know like people thought of it as a risk back then, even with Zoom and shit, but like I'd rather do something like that if I've seen this guy play and I know how good he really is. Like you'll usually get the best out of that than a lot of other situations. But I don't know. I don't think it's a bad move. I don't think that like solves all their issues that they were trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think either way this would be all Dan's fault. I guess is what I'm saying. I think they have other things to fix, like just like every team does though. Like not just them. Like no team in my opinion right now is perfect. Even us. I've said that with like the flank tier list and stuff. And so I think all those guys need to like just make sure he's comfortable and like really have faith. I feel like you can't make a move like this without having like full faith in the roster. So if you start off struggling, you have to tune everything out and like do your best to obviously get over that. If you start off hot, then make sure you keep your head on straight and obviously don't get too gassed, because that's another thing too. With that fan base being as awesome as it is, you can also probably get carried away with that too sometimes. So I think they'll be fine though. It was weird because I know we kind of talked on the last Scrap Time podcast about iLLeY. We never talked about him after because we didn't have another episode, but we had like an in-between episode, like where we were talking with Nameless and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the side of defending iLLeY, saying like I don't think they need to drop this guy yet. Like his potential's still high, yada yada yada. And I think behind the scenes stuff happened with him in the sense where like they just weren't seeing eye to eye on something, and they felt like it was a better way to go. That's the only thing that makes sense. I don't think it was as much of a skill thing as much of it's like something else that we don't know. So yeah, I think they're gonna be fine though. I think patience and all that will be good for them, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see it.
I mean, Kyler. So there's an eavesdrop episode that dropped. I think.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Yesterday, or the day before, with Kyler, aka Hook, and Hector, and I recommend tuning in because it was a pretty good conversation as always. But it came up in that video, and Hook didn't really give much in it. But the way that he like reading between the lines on what he said, it doesn't sound like. It basically sounds like what you and I and Nameless were talking about on stream last week. That we felt like the only reason that they're making this roster move after getting top 4 was that there was some sort of internal disconnect that were preventing them from getting better. And they decided that like if they stuck with it, they were going to waste everybody's time. They decided to pull the trigger. And I agree with you. Like, Dan is good. Obviously, for people that haven't seen him play in challengers, he's disgusting. He had one of the highest ADs overall in challengers globally, both NA and EU. He played really well at LAN in Boston. Like the numbers support there that he can slay with the best. Apparently, his comms and from what I've seen, the 8s are pretty good, which is an added need on this team considering what iLLeY brought to in that front. I think for Dan as well, he can run a sub, which will be really good in improving their embassy gameplay, which is really struggling. Embassy hardpoint. He can run a sniper, which we go back to embassy search. That's one that'll help out. So from like a tools perspective, Dan helps. But to what you said, like before all of that, they have other issues. Like the reasons that they lost against these were not on iLLeY. As poor as he played in that map 4, at the end of the day, Hook I think at the end of the game, made a really poor decision on a P2 and flipped them out on spawns on map 3. They were about to win, and Shotzzy pushed their spawn on defense, spawned them, got blooded, and then a cascading series of situations led to an easy cap on 8 point for Thieves, and they won a round they shouldn't have won. So I think you moved us to mistakes and Optic got a chance to get deeper in that tournament. So if they can work on those issues, but I think for Optic fans, like I don't expect Dan, and you probably agree, like I don't expect Dan to come into the league and drop like 0.8s. Like I think he's gonna shoot back.
Yeah, I mean, again, I brought up the issues part with them, not even just like that specific play, because I feel like so many people bring it up, but like just in general, I don't think any team is perfect right now, including us. Like I think every team right now is like so far from that moment of like being like really just like fully complete, and I think I didn't know this Hook video with the eavesdrop podcast really existed, but I think a big thing of like kind of what I was going to say, and this is something that I don't know for sure, but it's all about like the culture. And if they felt like they're going to waste people's time, like what he just said right there, if that's what you're saying, like I didn't see this myself. I'd have to go back and watch.
Well, he didn't really, if you watch the clip, he didn't really say much, Chris. Like he basically says nothing to the point of like, if you read between the lines on it, the only legitimate reason I can come up with is exactly what we were speculating last week, which is something was preventing them from getting better in practice. They felt like they'd hit their ceiling. Yeah, they could probably still win with that team, but they weren't going to get better over time. We're now in the middle of the season. They felt like making a change would help them continue to progress as a squad, and they pulled the trigger on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I know we touched on it before, but I think the most important thing, and I think this is also a lot of people, I think someone in the chat said it too, like who's going to be the IGL. I think having an IGL is important. I think it's something that I've obviously always have been a lot in my career and stuff like that, and I've obviously preached it as a coach, but an IGL is not just someone who communicates well in the game. Like, yeah, you do need someone to kind of keep everyone organized and calm and the whole thing through
Yeah.
through like tough matches and stuff. That's really, it is important. That is. But I feel like the most overlooked thing about IGLs, or I guess from what I see, is the culture that they bring to the team. Now, I don't know anything with them and iLLeY and all that stuff, but if what Hook said and what like you're kind of trying to read about between the lines type thing, like if their culture or they didn't have faith or their culture wasn't like, super productive where they felt like they had the best opportunity to win, then that's only something they can really know and not anybody else. So I kind of agree with making a change if that's the case. That's like what someone to the team brings though. Like sometimes it's not even just a guy that, sometimes it's a roster change sparks the fire in the other three, and then the other three, have a whole different attitude, and then it's all, everything kind of just like goes from there. But sometimes it's also like that IGL also establishes the culture of like how we're gonna win, like that new attitude, the new spirit to the team and shit. And like I truly, from being a part of the scene for so long as a player and as a coach, like I've seen like so many like ups and downs through things, and I think that that culture is the most consistent way to win, or have, give yourself the best chance to win. And I think if that's what they're striving for, I don't really think you can criticize it. So we'll see. And I'm assuming that's what they were looking for, and they didn't see it with him. I don't know. So I don't think this is as crazy of a move as everyone sees. If that was the reason for it, but only time can really tell. I think they're still going to be a good team. And yeah, I know you said like like that wasn't the only like iLLeY wasn't the reason why they lost. I think you lose everything and win everything as a team. Even with that Kyler play, I'm sure you can go back in that MSD hard point and find like 5 or 6 other mistakes that someone else made too. So it's like there's so much. It's like that's such a deep deep hole to go down. But yeah, I think overall, if that was what they were striving for, I don't think you could knock it for them. And the IGL thing, to people saying in the chat, like again, having an IGL is important in game sometimes, but at the end of the day, the IGL and the culture of the entire team is what is truly important. Like, to give you an example from my team, I think Slasher's an insane IGL. I think the culture that he brought to this team has been crazy. I think he's been doing his job so well. But at the end of the day, right now, they're all on the same page as a team. So it's not only Slasher making calls. Like, Simp says something, like, let's rotate this early, like, they all agree. Like, let's do this. It's like, if Sellium calls something, they all agree. If Tyler calls something, they all agree. Like, or sorry, Abizi, they all agree. Like, that comes from the culture. Like, you don't just have one guy solely to do everything for the team, and if they don't have that guy, they can't think. Like, there's a line to that. So like, I don't know. I don't think it's as needed if they get that culture of where they want it. So
Yeah, I just my worry is I think listen, for them to really like get to the level they want to, which is not just being able to win a one-off event, like they want to be sure where you guys and Thieves are, which is you think Sundays, you think losers finals, winners finals, grand finals, like they want to be in that picture, and they haven't really been there since Major One of last year. And I think yeah, bringing in Dan in, I think is going to help shuffle the culture, but they're probably at least in my personal thoughts, like they're probably still a move or two away to get there. And I think the other thing, and we talked about it last week with me, you and Nameless, I still think at the end of the day they still need a head coach on this team that works with the personnel on the team. I think they have some players that can be tricky to manage and need the right head coach that fits kind of the personality style. And those are good. It's gonna be really hard to find that person. That's gonna be a long-term process for them. So I think I'm not saying they're like rebuilding right now because they're not a rebuilding team. They're a contender,
mm.
but I don't think that their team is complete. And I think this is a process that they're still working on. It's honestly crazy to think about, Chris, because last year, like, well, it's the second week in February. Last year, this would have been the middle of the Major One cycle, and
Mm.
now we're in the middle of the season now.
We're
So,
already
so
on like
it's just
major
weird.
three. Yeah, we're like on
Yeah,
to
it's
major
weird.
three.
It's super weird to think about because we still have what like 4.5 maybe months left in the season. But I think this is a good start for them to start this like process of okay, well now that I think there's an understanding with this team overall of the BS they dealt with now for a year and a half after Major One, like where they want to get to as a squad. This is part one of probably a multi-step plan to
Yeah.
build that whole kind of team unit out.
I mean that takes time. I mean that's always going to take time. We talked about this in like the in between like episode we did, but like you can't just rush into getting a staff that's going to work either. Like I think a huge part of coaching, and also it depends on who you're coaching, right? Every team needs something else. That also goes with the IGL. Like I think if your coach works really well with the IGL, or like say you have a team that doesn't have a true like IGL type player, then like you need a coach that like might be able to help that out. It just depends on like who you're working with, but like the personality and like personality management and making sure everyone's on the same page and like making sure everything's like going like as one, like to really try and make the team like again a cohesive unit to like have the best ability to like hit their ceiling is like what you need. So like I think that's not easy to find, but I think they will, and I think when they do that, I think that'll help them even more too. Again, I don't think you absolutely need that to win, like, but I think with a league this competitive, I think you want every avenue to help, like to really help you push to that success kind of thing. And so I feel like they'll eventually figure that out too. But I think they can still do it without a coach. I don't think it's like the end of the world, but I do think like that would help them when they find the right person for that. I think that's really important.
I think it's also going to help them next year, because let's be honest, the other thing with Optic, and this is the more unique issue in this situation that I don't think any other team has to deal with, is the fan base is linking them to Pred and Sib, who were potentially players they were thinking about. Or at least Pred was a player they were thinking about over the Christmas New Year's break. They weren't able to get him. He's a free agent, excuse me, in the summer. And a lot of the fan base is like, we need to pick Pred up. And so there's this weird kind of like multi-stage plan of, okay, what are we going to do over the next few months to build a contender, win champs this year? We might be making a further team change in the summer if we don't do that, or if we do that. And then you're going to need someone to help um, bring the team together with that new personnel. So they're about to embark on an interesting journey. And I think we've seen teams really struggle with this initial part. I think Thieves is a great example, right? When I've talked to Cap about the Cold War year and how difficult it was for them to find the players that they wanted, that they felt like could win. They went through 5 or 6 different team iterations until they got to the one at the end of the year that stood them up the best. And then they kind of ran it back in Vanguard, and they kind of stuck through all the pressure of team changes, and it worked. Optic's going to kind of maybe go through the same journey. I don't know if they're going to make as many team changes, but they're kind of in the same spot. It's like I think people got to understand this team can win, but I think they have a longer term project in mind.
Yeah, I mean that's what everyone should realistically do. Like when you're making teams. So yeah, I think they're good. I don't think it's what's it called. I don't think it's as comparable in the sense that I think that LA Thieves team was like legitimately fucking struggling. That Cold War team was a fucking shit show. Like I don't think
it was bad.
That's what I mean. I don't think that's the comparison to make with Optic. I don't think they're a shit show right now. Like that LA Thieves team was fucking horrible.
That Thieves team was so bad that y'all played them in a series online, and you guys were beating them so bad in the 3-0 on the third map that your team is running around with knives.
No,
trying to kill the last guys on a checkmate
again, like
control.
that wasn't even like that team was just, again, that's just like when you have a team that's just not like a team and it's just running. Like I said, that's the culture you don't want. And I feel like Thieves has done a very good job to flip that around and obviously have one of the best cultures in the league now too. So I don't think it's, Optic's not to that point of like I think Optic's fine. So yeah,
they're not that chalked. All I will say to Optic is they have a very, very difficult schedule, at least by like the standards of the teams they're playing.
That's good,
major
though.
one. Yeah, which is great for them because I think they've got to do some map pull build up, but they got to play. These are the teams in order, by the way. So they're playing LAG this weekend. Then we got one match. I think it's on Saturday, and then the other 2 weeks they have Toronto and Rocker week 2, and then New York and you guys Atlanta FaZe on week 3. So they play, I would say, 4 of the other top 5, 6 teams.
Yeah.
So we're gonna learn a lot about this Optic squad and some of the map pull development they're going to need to do. And it's a really good challenge for them because they're going into a home major.
That's
they're going to have
exactly
the crowd on their side.
Yeah, Optic, in my opinion. I say this all the time. Of course, you always like. I think nothing matters online other than getting to the winners bracket. Of course, obviously, you want to win everything, and online does translate the land. If you're getting shit on online, 99% of the time you don't just fucking show up and not suck. But like in the sense of just getting the winners, like that's really good practice for them. That's the best practice you can get. It's better than scrims. That's better than anything. Obviously you simulate that against like the best teams in the world. So like, I think they're in a good spot, and it's also a long season too. And I feel like also people forget that too. As long as like they do well and like they can obviously go through that schedule and do really really good, which would be amazing. But if they make winners, they do well. They they keep doing their thing. Like it's a long season, you have a lot of time to develop. So I think that's really good for them. I think having that season is perfect for them. I mean that run, honestly.
There's other teams I want to talk about, so I don't want to spend super much more time on Optic. But I do want to ask one more question though, because this is an interesting one, and I wanted your thoughts. So, DanGhosty talked about this, and I heard about this because as well on the back end of this, that when they were thinking about this DanGhosty change, and they were like, okay, well, CDL players are going to be a little bit tricky to get. They were thinking about challengers, and DanGhosty said that he actually hit up Chris Parasite and said, hey, like, who do you recommend from challengers? All of that. Like, what are your thoughts that they sort of included Parasite in some of that? I wouldn't say decision-making process, but they went externally to get some thoughts about potential pickups and then kind of use that information to make a decision.
I mean, it's just like not being dumb. I feel like that should be like to be honest, like I feel like that should be like common sense to do something like that. Like just because I'm not saying like Parasite's word is gospel or some shit, but I'm saying he probably spends a lot of the time like knowing those players, and like he's got like a good opinion on things, I would say. So like the more information that you can get on the people that you're trying to pick up is always how it should be. Like no matter what you're going for, like you should try and get as many different angles, as many different sides as like the player that you're looking at, just to see like what you're really working with. Because obviously if Parasite is biased and it's DanGhosty's best friend, he's just only going to gas him up, and like you might not hear any of the negatives that come with him. But like yeah, I think doing things like that, like for the most part, like trying to have as much info as you can have and then process it on your own and then like make your decision is like, yeah, I feel like that's just kind of how that's not a bad play at all. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad play considering, again, Rambo's not really with the team anymore. They've got a smaller camp, and Chris Parasite's known for being, think of, if you look at the list of challengers players that have come in the league the last couple of years, I think Chris Parasite's played with like a good percentage of those people.
Yeah,
and to what someone said in the, not B-Dub, what someone said in the chat, not B-Dub. So basically the way that DanGhosty explained it was like, they went to Chris. So they were thinking about some people. They went to Chris and kind of had him give his thoughts. And then they started kind of doing their own research based on the thoughts. They basically had Chris kind of give them background. And then they kind of made their own decision from there, kind of watch film and sort of vibe. Exactly. So I think that was a good play from them. Like they could have just sort of kind of made their own decision, but going external, since they don't have a scout or anything like that, was probably a smart play for them. So I really like the Dan pickup. Obviously, we will see how they do on Saturday. I think that'll be something much discussed, but let's move on to another squad. I'm going to kind of do these in the order from like competitive to like near the bottom of the league. I'm going to move on to Boston. We haven't talked about this one at all. Obviously, Zin retired at Major 2, and we wish Methods the best of luck. I'm sure he'll end up on this podcast at some point eventually, and it'll be hilarious.
Yeah.
But in Zin's stead, or in replace of Zin, it looks like Benjamin Beans is coming in. If you guys don't know Ben Beans, obviously he fried last year in the U Challengers. Boston picked him up as a sub, and he's been playing with the Boston Breach Academy team this year. And he's an interesting kid. He's super funny, super talented. And it's not a confirmed move yet by the Boston Breach, but Ben Beans posted like a scoreboard yesterday of him in like scrims. It's really funny. He posted a screenshot yesterday of him in scrims, and he like crossed out his name and wrote like Zinny with like a Y. It was like ZINNY, like in like blue text. So like he's in scrims, he's playing with the team. Obviously curious on your initial thoughts on this pickup. And then I want to answer that, your thoughts on kind of how this might help them address sort of their bigger issue in terms of like playing 10 minutes of good COD and then not the last 2 minutes, or just not closing out series.
Well, I mean, I think before Zinni retired, I thought Boston was a good team. Again, I don't think they, right now, from what it seems, it just seems like they're not like translating it fully from online to LAN and like, as much as they could. And I think the new roster change can, again, spark just like a little bit more of like, just like, all right, we have a new team. This is like a brand new slate. Like, not even anything against Zin. Zin was playing fine, but like a brand new slate or whatever, like, let's fucking do this. And like sometimes that's all it takes for you to like kind of like hit that next level, like within the confidence and shit. I don't think outside of that he's gonna change too much of like like the mental side of things. I think he's just gonna most likely come into the team and work hard and try and keep his spot because obviously he's now new, right? He wants to like keep his spot and make a name for himself and start his career. He seems to be pretty good, and I think that Florida team is. I mean, sorry, not Florida. Sorry, I think that Boston team is really, really good. Like, I think they have so much potential to do like some serious damage in this league if they play to their full potential all the time. So I think it was a good move. I think with Zinni retiring, I think he was the perfect person to call up. I think he's been playing pretty well too. So I think they'll be good. I don't think he's gonna do much more in the sense of just like changing like their mental, unless he's like some crazy like attitude guy that like I don't know him very well. Like in the sense,
he's just a funny like he's all he's got like kind of he's got like a light personality to him.
That could be a good thing.
Like, yeah,
but Zin gets serious in matches though. Zin gets serious in matches, which is nothing wrong with that. But
I think for Ben I think everybody else on the team is sort of like I think Ben kind of is a good contrast because he's a little bit more of an emotions on the sleeve type guy, and maybe bringing in someone with a little bit more passion might kind of help with that sort of. They basically, I mean, I don't want to say they have like a mental issue in closing series, but they have some kind of block right now that's preventing them from taking that like next step as a team because clearly in practice everyone, this is not just us just kind of BSing rumors, like everyone that you and I have ever talked to, I think every pro mentions it on their stream that these guys are always nasty in scrims, that they just throttle everybody, but they get into a real match and things just don't kind of fall into place, or they get to land and they just make these big mental mistakes in big series. But go ahead.
There's two ways to look at that though too. A lot of people that play people online, if you go into a scrim with the mindset that these guys like just using Boston, because a lot of people say the same shit that you just said, like that's like the rumor about them. If you go into a scrim and like, oh, these guys are so much better online than LAN, right? Like that's your immediate thought process before you play the first map of a scrim. As soon as one little thing goes like not your way and like someone jokes you or you miss a kill that you're supposed to get, you start like whining and complaining and like you start like half-assing your gameplay because you're just annoyed that like, oh, these guys won't do this to me on LAN type. If you have that mentality, like you're gonna break down in the scrim, it's gonna steamroll from there. You're gonna have a really shitty scrim, and then like. That's not as much as sometimes their mental as it's like almost yours. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're not gonna really. No one does that on the main stage. No one gets joked once on main stage and loses fucking full. It doesn't really happen. So like there's a world where like if that's like the rumor about these guys as much, like they're also doing really well in scrims probably because they're just going hard and some people are losing full against them too. Like there's not just only Boston does really good in scrims and they don't do well. Like people also play better in matches. And like to continue to perform like at that level of matches too is like not as easy, it's easier said than done. But I think the new player can just spark the the confidence, the let's turn the shit around kind of attitude, and I think they'll be good. But I do think Boston is a good team. I think they got it in them, and I think that's good. Like I'm there again, another team for Major 3 that I would watch out for if they continue to play at their level because Beans is really good. Methods was really good. I think with this roster change, it can only help the other 3. Again, clean state. Let's try this again type deal. And I also think their coaching staff is really underrated too. I think they have a good staff.
Let me ask, because I think it's an interesting point about sort of how people might kind of lose full playing this team, especially in scrims. I'm gonna ask you a question. If you don't feel comfortable answering it, like feel free not to. Do you think that maybe the other reason that they run into issues is that their play style is much harder to replicate once they get to LAN, or do you think it's just the other things you described?
Play style how? What changes from LAN to online?
In terms of the way that they play in scrims, the aggression they play in scrims.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think that system, that maybe less structured system, is hard to replicate in a LAN match or a more structured environment that you get when things slow down?
I mean, it depends. I'd have to like deep dive into their system of COD, like to a degree where it would be like my own to see. It's like there's 2 ways to look at it. If you're playing really aggressive and like you're all over the map, you're fucking applying pressure, you're making sure like you're setting the pace of the game, the whole thing, like it's good. That's usually a pretty good thing to do. But if you're relying on something like that, where like you're relying on someone to push out and just get a 3-piece on their own. Now, if you just like the numbers behind that, like that's not going to happen all the time. Now, in a world where people are breaking down against you in scrims because they're also being mentally weak, which is a thing, like that's not your own fault. You're just going hard, and they're being mentally weak, and you're breaking them down. Like maybe it's like a false sense of like, yeah, this is like how this is the best way to play. But I mean, I think the system that you practice online translates to LAN pretty well, like for the most part. It just depends on how, again, it depends on like what that system actually is. Like if, yeah, they're relying, I see people talking in the chat, I guess Nero, he's a pretty aggressive player. If they're relying on Nero to drop 35 kills every game he goes out there and run around and go like fucking buck wild, that's just not a consistent way to play no matter what, even online. Like that might work a little bit better online. People like tend to break a little easier online, but people are not going to do that. So it's like, yeah, but I don't know. I think this team, their system and their play style, I don't think they need to change too much of that. I know they have a pretty tough record in game 5s and stuff, so that could either be a lack of having ice or their S&D just needs a little bit work, but I don't know. I wouldn't, again, over panic if I was them. I would just try and fix the little things and just go from there.
Yeah, they're in the same boat they were last year. Like I expect this team to make champs. They're good enough to make champs. I think the problem for them is like getting top 6 is not what they're here to do. You know,
no one's here to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like they want to make they haven't ever made it to a grand final in a LAN event with their franchise. Like that is probably the goal. And obviously win that.
Yeah,
but
of course.
For this major cycle, they actually like you look at their major cycle schedule is actually pretty interesting. They have 2 hard matches. So they're going to open up against Toronto and they're going to close against Thieves. But in the middle of all of that, they play a London team that, is not that good. An LAG team, which I think the big question this major is, are they good or not? And a Florida team, which has just made a change, and we'll get to them in a second. So I could see Boston getting a top seed for this event again. Just a question of, once you get in those winners matches, like what happens? Can they cruise like we've seen your team do and Thieves do over the years? What I expect Optic's going to do in this event, or is it going to be the same thing with Boston, where they may make it to Sunday top 4, or they might be out on Saturday again. It's just the same problem over and over, where they get in these big moments and they can't finish, where they play a series and they could make big mistakes every map, but like they did against Optic, and they just get 3-0'd,
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think they have it in them. I think they just have to fine tune a couple of things, and I think they'll be good. I would with that schedule that you said, I would expect them to have a pretty good seed going into the major 3 and stuff. So, I don't know. I'm a believer in them. You know me, like I guess like the coach in me, or just like how I think with everything. The whole like online to on LAN thing, bro, that is so fixable. Like I really do think that's so fixable if like you really like work towards that shit and like work on like focusing on the right stuff. So I believe in people like that. So I think they're a good team. I respect them. Like when we scrim them and shit, like I think I said this last episode, that's a good scrim to me. Like I wake up and I'm like, all right, this is a good ass scrim. Like this is a good hardpoint scrim. Let's learn something. Let's get better. It's not something where it's like, oh, these guys fuck. Like even if like we were to have a bad scrim event the first time, I've never been like, oh, these guys just fucking suck online. Like don't even worry about it. Like I hate that. That mentality's so shit. So
no, that is how you chalk your own team if you think that way. So
the mentality is just that mentality is softer in my opinion than the mentality of like breaking on LAN. They both suck, obviously, but like when you practice,
the bulk of your practice is online.
Yeah.
So like if you're not taking online practice,
but either way, like even when you practice, like bro, if someone beats you, like stop focusing on shit. That's not unless you lost by like 1 point or 10 points in hardpoint where like a couple gunfights could have changed it. Like bro, if you're losing by 110 points on or something like that, that's like, dude, shut the fuck up and figure it out.
Well, you would agree. I mean, the only thing that matters in scrims like that is your team's execution. If the other team is doing it and they're doing it crazy and
people
are any issues, so be it. But yeah. I mean, people have bad days, but like the whole point of practice is to improve your side of the execution there. And if you're not taking that seriously and not getting better, and we'll talk about, I think teams here in the back end of this, I think struggle with that. Like you're gonna fall off the pace of everybody else who's getting better now. We're in the middle of the season. People are starting to really hone in on their strats and dive in deep on situationals. If you can't do the basics or you're starting to fade, like you're gonna get passed very quickly in this league. That's how it goes. Let's move on for Boston, and we're gonna talk about 2 teams, going from 2 teams that are contenders to 2 teams that unfortunately are not. but are making moves to maybe try and move in that box. So we're going to start with Florida,
Mhm.
who basically kind of made a significant number of changes to their organization. Um, they're again, these are all these some of these changes have been announced, some of them have not. So Major Maniac no longer with the organization. He's been released. Um,
He's been
Dave
completely
Patty
released. Completely
completely
released? Okay.
released. Dave Patty completely released. That's as of yesterday. That was officially announced.
Okay.
I don't know if the Vickle to the bench thing has been officially announced, but he's on the bench for Jacob Hale's reporting over at Deserto. And then Jacob Hale also reported that alongside Brack, who's come back now, Havoc, who's been in the lineup since the beginning of the season, they're bringing in Capsule and Tyler Fellows. So that is going to be their lineup to at least start this stage. So big changes. Essentially, they made a number of roster moves and brought in 2 new players to the starting lineup. Curious your thoughts. I think you've known Tyler Fellow for a long time, and your thoughts on Capsule. Then we'll kind of dive in more on what we think about this team.
So it's really quick just to make sure. Capsule, Fellow, Brack, and Havoc, right?
Correct.
All right.
That's the 4.
I want to make sure.
According to Jacob Hale, and he's like,
Oh, so this isn't like 100% confirmed. This is
I mean, this isn't 100% confirmed, but like Jacob's like, we have some Europeans in the chat. He's like Fabrizio Romano or Ian Schefter. Like he's not. If he's reporting it, it's
okay. Yeah, I get it.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. So yeah, whatever the rumor changes or whatever. I mean, I think it's weird. I don't know enough about Vickle, like to really understand the move as much. Just because I mean, I don't think Vickle was playing out of his mind. But I think that Florida team had a shit ton of issues that like probably none of them are playing their best for that reason. But I think the change that they made, I don't know. I really don't mind it. Like, I don't think it's that bad. Like, I feel bad for Major because I've worked with Major. I've worked with Mike. I think he is I think he's actually a good player. I think he's very, very good. And his attitude that he brings to a team is incredible too. At least when I worked with him, he was one of my favorite people to work with. He really is like such a good dude. So I definitely feel bad for him just because I think he's good enough to be in a league. I think he has a spot. I just think that team specifically was just not made correctly with the pacing for their hard point. I think their hard point was just kind of like, you know? And
I thought
it showed. I just think their pacing was tough.
I don't know who said on stream last week, but like they're basically, I think it may have been like Damon. I don't know who said it, but they're basically saying like, yo, the problem with Florida is you watch them play, and Vickle is the one's playing hard point. The other 2 players are playing Surge.
Yeah,
like they're not getting active.
I thought Scrappy said that. Didn't Scrappy?
It might have been that might have been that sounds like a Scrappy thing. So it might have been him that said that.
I think Scrappy said that. But regardless, like that's my point. Like I think that team's pacing was just so fucking weird and hard point that like it was hard to pin that on anyone. So like I don't think Mike was the only problem. I think Vickle was playing pretty well when we scrimmed like versus that team. Like I thought Vickle made some pretty decent plays for the most part. But again, that team's like philosophy as a whole in hardpoint just didn't seem like it was working, and it didn't seem like it was being executed. So they needed a kind of like a complete wipe. So I definitely feel like Major is still good enough to be in a league. I don't know much about Vickle, but it looked like he was playing pretty well. But this roster now, like going on to the new roster, I think it's a pretty good change. I think Brack is good. I've always thought Brack is pretty good. So I like to see him back in there. I was actually surprised when he got dropped the first time. Again, I'm sure some wild shit happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. But like I think Brack is pretty good. Fellow, I haven't seen Fellow play in a while. Just because I just haven't. But I know Fellow is good at S&D, and he's gonna bring probably the right mindset to like playing the game correctly. He's a pretty aggressive player, even when he uses an AR. Like he's never really that slow.
He gets active, yeah.
Yeah, so like I think he'll be the question mark for me in the sense of how he plays. I don't think he's bad at all. I just think like sometimes like he's almost a little too selfless. At least the last time I've seen him play. So I think he'll be the one to look out for. I think if he plays really well, I think this team will be really good. So I definitely think he's good. Good, and then I think Capsule's really good. So I think this change should be a much better version of the Florida that we've seen this year. And I think the whole like kind of clean wipe attitude with this roster right now will give them that spark that might like help them out a lot. So I do think this was a pretty solid change in my opinion. I think Florida needed to do like a complete overhaul just with how much they were struggling. And I'm a big believer of not changing a lot of the times, you know that. But when you're struggling as much as they were, it's also, will you make champs, right? So like there is the pressure that hits that you don't really have a choice. And I don't think like that you can't keep having faith in a team right there. So I think this overhaul was like almost necessary. So I think it was a pretty good play. I just, again, not doubting Fellow because I know Fellow can be really good. I just know sometimes he can also be like too active and too selfless. So if he plays well, then I think they're in a really good spot because I have a lot of faith in him and I want to see him play well. He's a really good dude. So I think that like they're in a pretty good spot if they do that. And I love the Capsule pickup. I can't believe it took this long for Cap to get back in the league, to be honest. I thought when he got dropped last year, it is what it is. Maybe things, didn't work out, blah, 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 blah. But I thought he was going to be an instant pickup this year. Like, I could not believe he wasn't, to be honest. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Let me put on my Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter hat because apparently I had confused both of those people and combined them into one about 2 minutes ago.
did you? I didn't even notice that, to be honest.
I think I agree with you. Capsule, I kind of understand sort of he needed a little more seasoning last year after getting a taste. But obviously he played good enough during that stint on Thieves when he was filling in for Ken a few weeks ago. Was good enough that someone's going to take a chance on him. He's like a takeover player. Like he's got that about him where he's just going to own a map. And he even did it for Thieves. Like he can slay at this level.
It's he has the potential.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I come in with Fellow who, I think Mike talked about this when he got dropped. He tweeted that it seemed like the culture over. I think he was talking about Florida. He was being vague. It was unclear if it was Minnesota and Florida or just one. Like that the culture is not good. I've heard the Florida culture has been kind of iffy for a while. Even go back to the Wake and Skies a few years ago. But I think Fellow coming in can kind of set them on the right keel. I agree with you with Fellow. Like when we've seen him at this level, the slang's not always there. And that'll be a problem if he's coming in and dropping like 0.85s, like they're going to really struggle. But if he doesn't need to drop a 1-1 on this team, if he can drop a 0.95 and Capsule and Havoc are doing their thing as subs and Brax doing this thing, like they're going to be chilling. Yeah. This team should be good in search. For what it's worth, I looked up Fellow's stats during the Challengers Elite, and he was basically even in terms of slaying. He was actually pretty good on hard point. His S&D numbers were actually really good. He actually finished in the Elite in S&D. He finished with a 166 KD. So continuing this sort of trend with Florida, they got to be good at searches. They get the 5 against these better teams. Game 5, like going to be able to close that out. And so the S&D first mindset with this team seems to be pretty good. Actually, apologies, I was looking at a different player. He was a 0.97 in search. I was looking at Booza stats, and Booza was a 0.1, 0.6. But either way, I think Fellow has always been a good search player and is right. So I think they're going to be good in that game mode. It's the respawns. I think bringing in Capsule is going to help. Bringing Bracken, who I think is a good respawn player on paper, is good. I think Fellow's just the X factor. But at the end of the day, it's tough for them, man. Like the talent of the other teams in the league, like no matter what changes they're making here, like it's always going to be an uphill battle for them.
Yeah.
If you look at the other top 8 or top 9 teams in the league, it's tricky. But I think them getting Capsule's rights and having them as a piece on a roster was actually the most important part of this roster move, because I think that he, of anyone on that roster now, has the most potential to be like an all-star player. And if they can get the best out of him, I'm not saying he's going to be their hard carry, but like the one thing that like Vegas, and we'll get to them in a minute, lacks that now Florida has is Florida's got that absolute undeniable takeover sub that's just going to, sometimes go to land and go on like a 7 spree and just kill everything in its wake and make it super easy for the people behind him. So I like these moves from Florida. Let's see, though, in classic Florida fashion, though, how long they give this team to cook and if they can get better at the respawns quick, because to your point, their hard point was one of the worst in the league. There's 2 stages so far.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I guess I'll double down with the Capsule thing, too. Is as good as I think he is, like thinking it from like that perspective, too, yeah. Getting Capsule is important for the future of that organization too, because if you want to trade him, you'll get someone good for him. You have like you can give him away if you need to, if you want to like get something else. If you want to keep and build around him too, I think he's like definitely worth building around. I think having that potential takeover talent, and then again getting people to work with him and continue to obviously up his game will be really good. I have a lot of faith in Cap, so yeah, I think that was a smart play.
The thing with this team, and we're gonna talk about Vegas in a second too, is like So Florida, I just looked it up. Hardpoint. You know what the hardpoint record was through the first 2 stages and events?
It couldn't have been good. It had to be
It's
pretty
5 and
bad. Yeah.
22. 5
Yeah.
and 22, not good. Um, I think for this Florida team, considering they lack the talent that FaZe, Thieves, Optic, Toronto, New York, I mean, we keep going, but it's not the point here. I think Fellow coming in and helping set culture and giving this team a chip on their shoulder and having teamwork first be the priority, getting their system and executing it first the prior instead of everybody just trying to hold a roster down by getting good stats is going to be key for them to actually do something on land and be a good team. So hopefully that's where they kick it on from here. And it doesn't just become a, well, now we've given 2 people a shot and Brack's back in and everybody's just kind of looking out to their own end and trying to make sure that they have a spot in the league because they're just going to continue to be like a bottom 3 team if they do that. But if they actually come in and they build a cool system, S&D first, they grind these series out and get better respawns, suddenly very quickly this team might become like a consistent top 6 or top 8 team, which is probably where they net out ceiling wise, I think, which should be good enough to make champs, which is sort of the issue right now that they face.
Yeah, and there's always like potential moves down the line if they get things working, and then maybe they like make one more change if like obviously they don't feel like super confident. There's always like potential stuff to do down the line too. But yeah, I think this overall was good for Florida, not even because of Vickle and Major being bad or anything. I just think they needed they needed a lot of changes. They were just struggling so hard and they didn't have time to fix it. So we can move on though. But yeah, I think it's a solid move.
Speaking of another team that was struggling and they have rumored roster changes. They haven't announced anything, but in classic Vegas fashion, they'll probably announce this on the Friday before matches. So who knows when we'll find out. But supposedly, the word on the block and CDL Scrim Intel, aka Ronnie, tweeted, and he's reputable. I say like tier 2 reputable. So he's always someone that will have sort of what the current rumors are saying, but obviously things are fluid sometimes. He tweeted that Vegas is going to be bringing in Kremp from Boston Academy and Two Real as sub players. So that means that TJ and Prolute will be going to the bench for stage 3. And I don't think that Vegas will keep both those players. So I'm curious to see if one of them ends up getting released or both of them end up getting released.
What
Uh,
what do you think of that?
so well, first off, from what I've heard behind the scenes, that of the 2 moves, the Two Real one seems to be likely because it doesn't seem like right now he's playing with a challenger team. So make it out what you will, but I think that one's more likely. I haven't heard that the Kremp one's like 100% confirmed. So until I hear that, like obviously takes a grain of salt. I mean, my thoughts on the move are just like with Florida, their respawn was really bad. And as good as they were in search, it's just not good enough for them to win. And even then, search, they went from being one of the best search teams during stage 1 with like a 10-5 record to being 5-3 in search during stage 2. And
Church
the
is really hard
respawns
to
were,
keep up, in my opinion, as well.
yeah,
I think that's underrated.
it's really hard. And all 3 of the 5 wins were on Mercado. Um, and then when it came to respawns, like they're the worst control team in the game. And hard points, they went 4-7. So I think they're trying to get better in respawn. I think Kremp is someone that's got potentially insane talent. Hasn't yet played at the CDL level, but the way that I've seen him play last year, and he played under Volance was his tag last year, and he changed it this year. He's been one of the better players on that Boston Academy team, him and Ben Beans. So if they're making that move, I like that. Two Real's an interesting one. He played really good in challenges the last couple of weeks. But is an interesting decision. Last time he was at the CDL level, which is for Florida last season, was one of the worst statistical players during his time when he was on that team. So the CDL time that he's had is not super great. So I'm curious to see how he does in this squad. And I'll be candid, it's not a Vegas team that's like has amazing teamwork. It's not like it's coming in slotting into some crazy cutting edge system. Unfortunately, like the way that this Vegas team plays sometimes is very selfish. And I guess it kind of works in search, but in respawn it doesn't. So I mean, I'm glad to see Vegas making moves, but I don't know necessarily if this makes them better.
Um, yeah. So I was gonna say, I think with their respawns not being as good as like they want it to be to contend, to add on to it, I think staying really, 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 really good in search like that is hard to keep up. I think Search, you're going to go through your ups and downs no matter what, just because like the way Search is played, it's till 6 rounds. You have 1 life around. Like things can go like, a few things go wrong a couple rounds and you find yourself down. Like Search is really, really hard to like continue to be like really, like to rely on it. Obviously, there's always going to be some better Search teams than others, and that's how it is going to be true. But if you want a consistent recipe to win, like you can't only be good at Search. Like that will save you here and there. It might win you stuff here and there, but you have to be able to like, contend in respawns if you're trying to like make those top placings or, go for the tournament win and all that. So I think like their thought process of trying to get a little bit better at respawn makes sense. The only thing that confuses me just a little bit is I feel like ProLoot or TJ, I know if I go through their stats, I'm not a huge stat person, but like I'm sure they both were like kind of struggling, right? They probably weren't playing their best. Donnie will usually produce no matter what. Like I feel like keeping one of them wouldn't have like hurt. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes with that team, like, or maybe like they couldn't figure it out to get like into the system that I'm sure like, you said they don't have a cutting edge system, but I'll give like Clay the credit. I'm sure Clay has probably tried to help provide the best system that he can with this team. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure like it's better than like the recent years. So I think like I'm just curious to see like why both of them go. I don't know. I don't think they needed to make a 2-person change unless there's something that I'm missing. But I do think Kremp's like, if they're picking this guy up, I haven't seen too much of him yet, but if he's doing really, really well and like, they want to take that risk, I don't think that risk is a bad risk. I think that's something they need to do to like up their respawn. I just don't know if they needed to make a 2-person change because I haven't seen Two Real play this game specifically. He just struggled a little bit last year, so like I feel like that's almost a bigger risk. You're being
kind the way you just frame that, but
well, that's what I'm saying. He struggled last year. Like, I'm not going to come up here and just like shit on the guy. Like, like he struggled last year. It is what it is. I don't know, like if that's worth the risk over one of those two, unless there's something else we don't know. So that's like my question mark for them. I hope he doesn't. I don't wish poorly on anyone in the league in the sense if they come in the league, and I don't want them to do bad. So it's like I hope he like plays better than he did the last time he got the opportunity, but like that's the scary thing for me is like I feel like that's more of a risk there, but we'll see. I don't know. I just don't know if both ProLoot and TJ had to go. I don't know which one of them you would want to keep depending on behind the scenes attitude and culture and how they provide to the team and their grind and their mentality and all that. But I do think one of them could have stayed because they're also both really pretty good search players too, right? So
yeah, but I mean, in terms of
I think you lose a little bit of search power with getting rid of both of them as well,
I agree, but neither player has been, and I think so here's my read on these roster moves. One is between Donnie and Clay, who's got control of this roster again. This is not an organization that's got like a big camp. It's the players and Theory.
Yeah.
I assume of the two, Clay's probably the one more likely calling the shots here.
I'm sure, but I'm sure Theory has a lot of insight to it as well. Theory, I feel like Theory works pretty hard with those guys to figure it out. Like I don't know. I'm assuming Donnie and Clay have Donnie and Clay obviously clearly have like control of it, and I'm sure like they have to probably come to some sort of agreement. I don't think, maybe I'm faded for saying this, but like if Clay were to make a decision and Donnie says like absolutely not, I don't think the decision happens. Like I think or vice versa. Like I think they have to agree collectively. I don't think one person has a say there. I think that's kind of faded.
But
I hope not, at least. I think that's ridiculous. That's a recipe for disaster.
I don't know, bro, because like, bro, I'll be honest. I love Don. I think he's one of the personalities I love in the scene. He's a unique dude and just great entertainment wise. I think the problem with the sort of Vegas team is like, they probably need a little bit more power in the sub role, and that's what they're trying to do here. Because I'm looking at stats right now. ProLoot and TJ, great S&D stats, but you look at respawn and it's 0.9.
Okay, so they both struggle at respawn though. I'm only talking about one here. Because at the end of the day, too, you have to remember. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Stats are important. You can't just get shit on and win. I know I come up here all the time and preach that stats aren't everything. Like obviously, you can't just keep getting shit on and go about your day. Like you need to keep it up on your own end too. But like, at least I'm gonna keep ProLoot out of this because I don't know him as well as I know TJ. TJ is not a stupid player. Like TJ doesn't play hardpoint the wrong way, and he doesn't like go around and kill whore and be dumb. Like I think TJ knows how to play smart Call of Duty. At least the last times I've like talked to him and played with him and even against him. So it's like that is also really underrated to have players that can also play a winning style, even though he's not doing well. Can he get a little bit better to the point where if they brought in Kremp, like they would do really good, or vice versa, the same thing. Like I feel like ProLoot wasn't playing terrible either. I feel like just both of them didn't go. So it's like I think playing smart is also smart to like keep in mind, and that's why like Too Real was like more of a question because I don't really know if like you're getting someone smarter than TJ or ProLoot, and then you also maybe not getting the same slaying. That's like where that's weird for me, but we'll see. But keep going.
I think they're between a rock and a hard place, which is they wanted to maybe get certain, like if Kremp's coming in, like that's a big F for them. Too Real is an interesting move. Like maybe they felt like that if they didn't make the moves now, that they were kind of miss out on the players that they wanted. I think the bigger issue though, and Cisco, you're kind of getting it with their system is I think they need to figure out how to utilize Don a little bit more, and he's got to be willing to be utilized a little bit more in action around objectives instead of always being the guy pushing out and getting kills. I think it would help get their sub players in a little bit better rhythm. That point, Cisco, like if there's one of their sub players is constantly having to run a trophy and respawn, like that really limits your ability to make plays as a sub.
Yes,
because we've talked about
takes it away.
we've talked about how the sound cues, like if you don't have dead silence, like they're going to hear you stomping across the map, and I mean literally across the map with the sound equalization. So, yeah, okay, cool. You're gonna make these sub changes if you're Vegas, but I think the key thing is two key things. Is one is Clay's obviously got to play better, which I know he's working on, and the temp thing is like, look, I love Don. It's just he's got to be willing to play more in a team and less about him. I think he knows that, but it's going to make his feature on this team complicated if they keep struggling. He keeps dropping 107s and they're winning like 3 hard points a stage. Like something's amiss there that they need to figure out and use these changes as a honeymoon to start working on that system. Because right now, they haven't executed in hard point or control. Actually, they are by far and away the worst control team.
Okay, so 2 things. Fair point to the ProLoot using a fucking trophy. I honestly didn't even think about that, but like that's also another thing too, where it's like they have ProLoot running a main sub. Like obviously it's running a sub with no dead silence, and for anyone in here, especially with the loudness equalization setting being allowed, like on like the last online stage, bro, that is some of the hardest Call of Duty you can play because you can't get behind people because they can hear you at all times. You can't make plays and get into their spawn, so that's hard as shit. And like so, like that makes it a lot even harder to do. So like I feel that like also kind of limits him a little bit. But that's also another reason why it's like, is that like a system problem or is that a ProLoot problem? That's why I'm going to the point of saying, the 2-person change might not have been necessary, or that's like more, maybe not necessary. Maybe I'm wording it wrong. It's just way more of a risk. And to what you're saying with Donnie, what are you implying? You're implying that like Donnie, like I don't feel like Donnie has been doing what like you're saying with the team. I think it's more than that. I just don't think they're getting it done. Like I think with Donnie, like Donnie's role right now as a flex is to get kills and like do his best. I'm sure he can make better plays. He's not fucking perfect by no means. I'm sure he can probably make better plays. A lot of people can. But I feel like if you have like in respawns, like your sub's not playing that well, and then like, especially if one of them is running a trophy too, it makes it even harder for them to pop off. Like you're probably like playing on your back foot a lot. Like it's not going to be easy to like, even if Donnie quote unquote plays with the team, like I don't know if that's like really game changer too. Like I don't know. I think it's more than that. Like I feel like I don't think Donnie's a perfect player. I'll just say that, but I also do think like that can get overgassed sometimes too, just because like with this specific team, like I don't know. I feel like it's kind of hard to like be like this perfect team system if like their system doesn't even like get like again, like I don't think Vegas was a team that was playing hard points that are like setting the pace of the hard point, like where like they're all over you, they're winning rotations, they're in holding opportunities, like like so on and so forth. Like it's really hard to do that like when the system is not there, or like you're not setting the pace like with what you're doing. So I feel like it was more of a team thing than just a Donnie thing. So I know a lot of people give him shit like that.
I'll say, Chris, is like if we look at hardpoint, I know hardpoint held time's not everything, but like for example, if we look at hardpoint held time, Donnie is top 5 lowest. And of these top 5 players, Neptune and Dave are not in the league anymore. Yeah. And it's Asymmet, Pred, and then him now.
All right, so top 5 lowest for sure. He's running Dead Silence over ProLoot?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
I pulled up a VOD and just checked. Like the Fortress Hardpoint they played against LAG, Prolit was running a trophy in
okay,
that map.
okay, but that's the thing though. Like the way this team's system is formed, at least from what I'm seeing, it's like he's running Dead Silence as a flex, which is a little weird. We had MC do that for a little bit too. Like we experimented with it.
You tried it, yeah.
Yeah, but like having him do that, like he's not really supposed to sit in. Like again, everyone should sit in the hill like collectively if you have like the perfect system in this fucking perfect little world. But like Prolut's not going to be able to push out with the sub and do all the stuff that you want him to do with the sub because he physically like almost can't. Like he needs to also be near the hill with the sub, and like that's what they're doing. So again, like I also think the system that like their teams formed, like kind of forces Donnie to have to play like that a little bit more too. Again, that's not an excuse. I'm not sitting here saying
No,
he's like perfect, but I also think like it's
saying,
overrated.
Chris.
Like I don't know. I think there's more to that.
I hear what you're saying. I just think they need to flip. I'm not saying you always want to conform to the meta, but I just feel like it's just if Don could, I just think it will help them with these new subs coming in, to kind of stick to what other teams are doing.
No, oh, if that's where you're going with it, like I don't think so. But that
I'm thinking they should change it up. Is what I'm saying.
yes, I mean, okay, yeah. I guess maybe I heard you wrong. I thought you were just implying that like Donnie just won't do that. Like I think they will. I think that's again.
I would hope that Donnie doesn't do that. I would hope if they want to go down this route that he's you know.
I've never really worked with too many people. Just like I've been again, even like as a player, very few people where like the team thinks like this should happen and the one person's like, nah, that shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's again a collective team choice to have Prolo run that stuff like that trophy. Maybe it's not. Maybe I am wrong, but like I just feel like that would be crazy. Like I don't think that's just like a Donnie issue. Like again, I think that was team system. Like people were gassing it. Everyone, I'm pretty sure you guys, not you guys, but like a lot of guys in the broadcast and stuff were gassing the fucking trophy sub thing too, saying that's like the best thing ever. And now here we are, a couple weeks later, and it didn't work out. And now there's a lot of people saying that shit's kind of whack. Like I don't know. I think the best thing is to have your subs pushing out with Dead Silence and being aggressive because that's like what they bring to the table. That's like kind of what you need. So like maybe their system's flawed, but I feel like that was a collective team choice. I don't think that was something where like I would just be very surprised if like they were like, yo, Donnie, you need to use a trophy, and he was like, nah, you guys are all fucking ass. You know what I mean? Like,
I would hope that's not the case.
That's what I mean. So I guess I'm taking Donnie's side in that sense. Like I don't think that's like his fault fully. I don't know, but again, every team has their own thoughts of like how to play. You had Simp on trophy.
Chris.
We had him on trophy for a little bit. Yeah, we tried us. I mean, I'm glad you can hear things. I just said that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think Chris, my greater point is this: is like going back to the thing I said about Florida. If you're in this position where your talent is not as good as other teams, where can you find your path to winning? And it's going to be executing a meta-defining system that's ahead of other people and being unpredictable and being ahead. And like that's the thing to do here. They don't need to just get to like, get some Slayers on the team, so like we're shooting back, and then maybe we can win some series. Like if they want to be a good team, they want to be a team that qualifies for champs, that makes it to the weekend, that doesn't just go and play one series because they went a 1-4 in line. They have to play on Friday and they lose straight. Is like they've got to figure out how to push the meta and evolve. And that's where I'm going with the Donnie thing. Is like I think bringing Turiel and Kremp on, it's like I for me personally, the way this game plays, like I would love to see them both on Dead Silence, and then Don and Clay kind of be a little, kind of figure out behind that. But let's see kind of what they do with these moves. Again, these are the rumored moves. They haven't officially announced anything. Obviously, stuff could change. Although we're recording this on Monday, and from my understanding, I think what roster locks technically is on Monday. So like if they want to make changes for this week, they have to let the league know. I believe today. I think is how it works. So we shall see. And then again, I think the T-Gen Prelude thing is traditionally when they were Paris last year, when they made these roster changes, they immediately released those players and they would keep Theory on as their substitute player. I don't know if they're going to do the same this year. So it's possible that Prelude and TJ might be free agents as of this week.
Yeah. I mean, Vegas is tough because I don't know how much support is behind the scenes with them. But I would hope to at least, again, I guess with my initial take of like not dropping both of them, if they are going to make a 2-person change, I think they should keep at least one of them as a sub. And that's a very fair point. If that's like typically what they don't do, I think that would be a mistake.
Well, they also
Like if they don't do that, that would be a big mistake. I know that might not be a player and or coach's choice. That might just be like Vegas doesn't give a fuck what they have to say, like money wise. You know, like obviously they're paying the bills kind of thing. So like if they don't want to pay an extra person money, like I guess, but that needs if they were to drop both of them, I think that's a really dumb risk for no reason. I think they keep him around as a sub at least. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, in general, this team probably needs some more support. Like they don't have facility right now, which I know is very much on the mind of those players. So they've got a lot of stuff to work on there to get to a new spot. But if they're making these roster changes, team needs to go back to being innovating if they want to have a chance. Their schedule, by the way, they have probably the hardest. I mean, I know Optic schedule is hard, but listen to this schedule that Vegas has for this qualifier stage. And this is in match order, by the way. Thieves, Ultra, FaZe, Rocker, LAG. Are the 5 teams they have to play.
Ultra, FaZe, Rocker, LA. Yeah, that's a pretty tough one.
So and they have such a bad online split, right? They have the double Northeast, Donnie's in Atlanta.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say that's the one thing.
They're switching up now. They have 2 real, and so Kremp's in Boston unless he's moving.
If you're not in a facility, listen. If you're not in a facility, it doesn't fucking matter. I was gonna say that's the one thing. Like I'm a big preacher of like online and LAN isn't that much fucking different. It really isn't, especially when all the teams are in the facilities and you're playing on basically even ping and shit. For the most part, there's obviously very very little things that could matter, but with them, if you're not in a facility with like godlike internet at the facility, I think at this league that's the one thing I will say that's really fucking tough. It's still not like a full excuse to like lose, but I will say like that makes it a lot harder. Like that shit is really fucking tough. I don't know. That makes it so much harder because even if like for example like Donnie, he's in Atlanta. I'm pretty sure this is a thing. I don't know if this is fully true, but like we ping to the same Atlanta server or like with the same servers that he does because we're in Atlanta obviously too. But we just ping like 10 better than him because we're in the facility. Like with our like the internet there is just fucking insane. Like I do think like that is like again that's not going to help you win anything, right? And that with a league this competitive, I feel like that's almost like a fucking must. So
would you guys be? I know your facility is not.
Yes, absolutely. Donnie can come to the facility whenever he wants. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Like I know we've seen other teams do it. Like Toronto did it with iLLeY when he was stuck in Toronto, and Capsule actually played from the Optic facility in Texas. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we plan on having him around. I don't know if that's a fact, so I'm not like 100% sure because obviously that's not like really what I'm dealing with. But all our players and shit and our staff and all that would allow him to do that. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that might be a thing already. But yeah,
I think if you do that deal and then the ask is that on Mondays you have Don do content, I think having him do content with your guys would be hilarious.
I think that would just be hilarious either way. But like just in general, like I don't think there has to be a catch to it. I think at the end of the day, or at least the way I view it, I know I'm not in Atlanta right now, but like providing the most fair competition at all times is like what you want to compete against, and that's what you want to play against. Like you want to beat people at their best, and you want to also like compete at the highest level. So like with Donnie, like like if there's a player or two that like needs help at the time to like compete at the highest like level, I feel like that's a no-brainer. There doesn't need to be a catch to that. Obviously, it'd be cool if they did content together. I think that'd be dope. But like,
listen, I want to see him on MC Mondays.
So do I. Of course I do. That'd be fucking hilarious. MC can ask him some wild questions. But
Tommy and I will likely be in Atlanta in 2 weeks. I get my head shaved on the 26th. Is what we're planning.
Wait, what is
That'll
this?
That'll be
fun. That was our last topic, right? Like for now. Or no? Am I faded?
No. I got one more.
All right, let's move on.
I got one more. Yeah. My last topic is obviously we're recording this on Monday. Mm-hmm. There's a rank play trailer dropping at 2 p.m. Eastern, so we're recording this in like 2 hours. And then I believe on Wednesday, season 2 drops for both Modern Warfare and Warzone 2. And I want to talk on this because obviously some new Warzone stuff with the new map, and that'll be interesting to watch. But obviously on the multiplayer side, we're getting some new weapons, some new skins, but more importantly, we're getting rank play, and we'll get more information on that later today, as well as a couple of maps coming in. So the museum map, which is I guess not a new map because we had during the beta, that's coming in. So I guess whatever issues they have with the Getty Museum or something they resolved there, and we're getting Dome. And so I'm curious if you've heard any chatter on your end about bringing either of those maps in for either this major or next major in terms of supplementing like Fortress Control and Fortress Search, some of the maps that people
This
don't currently like.
major would be tough. I don't know. I mean, I don't play the game professionally anymore, so it's a little bit easier for me to say this, but I would rather take the chance of getting Fortress Control is my least favorite map out of all of them. I think the way it plays statistically is ridiculous. I think what it promotes on defense, like
It's the worst. The
when you're
absolute
hiding
worst.
from each other and not killing, I think that is the least competitive shit of all time. But
Yeah.
what's it called? I think like it is absolutely worth it to have that conversation for the pros and stuff. I haven't heard too much chatter of it. Sometimes I feel like that shit's hella unorganized and it needs to be better. And again, even on the league side of
Oh,
things,
we've talked. You and I have
again,
talked about that a lot on stream. So,
but yeah, but I also think I feel like I want to lean on the league a little bit too, with like them also like forcing it in a way, just to like again have some more tests. Because not a lot of people want to test shit because at the end of the day, like we're all competing to scrim. They only have so much time in the day. Like they don't want to like test maps that aren't going to be
here's an idea. Here's
what.
an idea. So I know most teams don't scrim on Monday. So this map's obviously going to drop Wednesday. Give it a couple days for them to fix anything, and then a couple of teams play it on Monday, and then kind of see how
So
that went, and then
yeah,
kick on further testing from there. And to your point, I think doing it for this major is going to be tough. I don't think anyone wants to the
see
map pool before this event, but for major 4,
major
yeah,
four, major five,
it's
and champs or
definitely a
whatever.
question. Yeah,
Yeah, but like, well, that's my thing though. It's like a lot of people don't want to do that because Monday's a lot of players only days off, and they don't really get days off for like the whole entire season. Other than that, so like some people don't want to do that for that reason. Some people just don't want to be the like the only couple teams practicing it kind of type thing. It's like there's always like some weird fucking thing where it's like why like I wish if it was forced to try it, it'd be cool. But regardless of that, like I would I would rather see Fortress Control and like other maps too, but Fortress Control mainly out, and I would rather play a new map with 5 days of practice instead of just fucking like doing a whole nother major with like a Fortress Control. I think Fortress Control is such a shitty map. The way like again, it doesn't promote anything competitive in my opinion. I think it's like a really bad map, and like I think that being said, I think it's still worth it to like have that conversation no matter what, even just for Major 3. But again, I'm not playing at the professional level, so like
yeah.
it's harder. It's easier for me to say that because I'm not the one realistically, like, with the timings and the feel on the map and all these other shit. Like, there's so much to do. So, like, I think it's worth it to do that. I think we've talked about this. This game's, one spawn update, red dots on a mini map, and a map or two away from, like, being, like, a pretty fucking good game. So, I think the quicker we get a lot of that done, the better for us. So, I would rather go ahead and do that right fucking now. As soon as those maps come out, I practice them a few days and make a decision and at least get Fortress Control out of there. Some of the searches can go back and forth. We can talk about that and then maybe a hard point. But like, I think we're stepping closer and closer each day to like trying to get this game to a pretty good spot. So I'd rather start that earlier. And like, again, I'd rather have a fucking, I guess, funky Major 3 and then have more time to practice these maps for champs than like go through all of Major 3 with Fortress Control and then have less time for like the build up to champs. So you know what I mean? I'd rather have like a weird Major 3 than have a slightly weird Major 4 and then go to champs. I don't know. I feel like the season's long, and at the end of the day, like champs is the goal. So I would rather kind of deal with that. But that's also harder because again, there's teams that are obviously struggling to make champs, and that could throw a wrench into their system, and that can fuck them over. And it's easier for my team, having a better chance right now of making champs if we keep playing well to like say that. So like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. That's a pretty deep thing, but I would rather, I guess my take, yeah, I'd rather just get the fuck over with now, get Fortress Control out of there. Hopefully one of these controls play better. We test it and go from there and keep trying to get this game slightly better and better. Because we're still so close, dude.
I agree with you on that. I think Fortress Control is one of the worst maps that's ever been played in the CDL, maybe the CWL as well. And so getting that out quickly will very much change the calculus of how Control is played right now, because it ends up being this like nobody bans Fortress Control. They ban either a silo or a hotel, and the other of the two is going to get picked unless a team is just confident playing that Mickey Mouse map. So yeah, I know it's a tricky situation. Then we can kick on to the other game modes, but let's see what they do. Let's see if the league kind of process maybe pushes this conversation along. Let's see if the players push it along. But I would like to see it for Major 3, but I'm being realistic. I don't think we're going to see any if I'm being realistic about it, like the way things have happened last year, for example,
Yeah, I don't think it's
and
gonna
the year
happen.
before, I don't think it's gonna happen until next major, which sucks.
No.
I got one more of this, but we'll see. Let's also see if those maps are playable. So those will come out on Wednesday, obviously pending, assuming that season 2 launches correctly on Wednesday, which at times
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully it does.
it's been funky. You know,
Yeah.
that's what happens when you roll out big patches. Sometimes things go wrong. So we'll see on that. I think that's it on the agenda items. So I think if people, I said we'll do a little bit Q&A at the end. If people have some questions, drop in chat and we can
Yeah.
answer a
I'm
couple of
here.
these
I'm
and
here
get
for like
out.
another 10 minutes, and I gotta roll. Yeah, but
So let's see what people got in the chat. Obviously, I think we had a good roster mania combo. We'll wait for questions
yeah.
to come in. And I think also these episodes will be, like next episode will be interesting because we could talk more specifically about matches and maybe break down some gameplay. So
Someone said thoughts on Mercado Control. We played Mercado Control in the beginning of the year. I personally thought it played better than Fortress, but like, again, I don't think that was like fully tested by everyone in the league and like give it a fair opinion. Like, it's also, you have to remember this too. When you're testing a map, and we played well on Mercado Control, so as the head coach of FaZe, I'm not even saying this because I'm the head coach of FaZe, but at the end of the day, like, this is how it goes. Like, people are gonna think like, oh, well, you like this map because you're playing well on it, and you don't like this map because you're playing bad on it. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're testing maps and shit too. Like, if you're getting shit on the map, it's also gonna be immediately like, I don't think this map's that good. So it's also very hard. Like, again, like these testing things are such a pain in the ass. That's why like I wish they were like more mandatory by everybody to try the map more than once or twice and like give it a chance and then like go from there. I personally thought Mercado was slightly better than Fortress, but I will say Mercado still has a lot of its own issues too. Like, I don't think Mercado would have been that much better, to be honest. So like, I don't think that's our savior here, but it would definitely be. I definitely think it would still, again, some of these new maps I would hope for. I don't think Mercado's our savior though. I don't think that would have played that much better.
let's roll on. I've seen a bunch in here. We're not gonna be able to get to all these. There's a big one that we didn't talk about, the YouTube situation. So speaking of Jacob Hill again, I know we talked to him earlier in this episode. He reported 2 weeks ago at this point that there's conversations between Activision YouTube pretty much at the end that we might be moving to YouTube exclusive.
Yeah.
I know from my end, like my thoughts on that are really sucks for some of the insane community growth that we've had. I mean, if you look at
Some of the same. I feel like the community growth has been fucking wild.
I mean,
like amazing.
We had 300K, we had 300K people watching
Major 2.
Major 2, which we've never seen numbers that high for a major.
Ever.
I think that the choose your own experience kind of situation on Twitch between the main broadcast and all the watch parties is really getting more people in, and it kind of sucks that we moved to YouTube that almost all of that's going to go away. So I know that Hector kind of said on the watch party that like the owners weren't consulted, and it seems like there's a lot of conversations, at least last week, about this between ownership and the league and other people at Activision. So, this is one of those decisions that I assume that because it's so much money for an exclusive deal that I don't think the CDL leadership necessarily is the one making the decision. This is, we're talking. I mean, the last YouTube deal was like 120 million, I think. So at that point, we're talking like senior leadership at Activision Blizzard by making the call on this one. So, hopefully there's some carve outs. Hopefully, if we're gonna go down this path, that we can meet somewhere in the middle that we can still get the growth on Twitch. But I'm not holding my breath for that, unfortunately, the way things have worked out in the past.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like this is well, this is above my pay grade. I don't know how the fuck this shit works anyway, but like it would kill me inside to watch the league go back to YouTube after seeing Call of Duty finally compete in viewership again. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like Call of Duty is like finally starting to compete in viewership in the sense of like the viewership is up there for matches that don't fucking matter. Some of them, obviously they all matter, but I'm saying like not big crazy matches like a champs final. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we're like every match right now has been like so good in the sense of viewership, no matter what the match is, no matter what the time is, with all the watch parties and all that stuff. And then like that gives every player in the league like opportunity to showcase their talent to more eyes, to more people, to grow their brand, and like inevitably everything will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I think that shit's so important. But the problem is like how much money sorry, Jesus, I'm sick still. But like how much money is like actually involved, like you just said. Like I feel like it's so hard for that shit. Like again, like I think this is like so above so many people's heads that like it's out of a lot of people's choice. it seems like a common sense thing to say, like, yeah, we're not fucking gonna do that. We're gonna kill our fucking esport. But at the same time, like, at the end of the day, I think we all understand how, money talks to a lot of shit. So it's like, I really hope they don't do it. I think this is the first time we've seen Call of Duty in a very long time be competitive in viewership with like other esports and be like, fucking lit. Like, I think COD right now is fucking insane, and I want it to keep going that path. And I think in the long term, and I'm not that experienced with this, but the way my mind sees it is the more viewership consistently, the more individual players get to grow, the more they individually get to grow, the bigger the scene gets, and like slowly, like so on and so forth. Like, we continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. Like, that's like what we really want in the long term. So I would hope like that's like the future, like the viewer, the idea of that. But
Yeah.
if there was a world, I know now I'm probably asking for something impossible, but if we were going to go down the YouTube route, I wish there was like a way where if they did like somehow like there was a YouTube route, but like there was somehow like still like like at least like some people can watch party or some shit like. But if they were to completely cut off all watch parties from like especially a lot of the bigger guys too, like no offense, like even like people like me, I wouldn't be able to stream. Like I'm not big enough as a streamer to go watch party that shit, right? So like it would hurt me too. But like, dude, if they cut all those guys off, like Scump and all, Tommy and all, everyone, like I feel like that is just I don't know. I feel like that can't happen. I feel like that would be such a fucking L.
I think what Brett Diamond, who's the COO at Version 1, which is
Brett's a good dude. Yeah.
the Minnesota Rocker, we had him on our set at Major 2, and what he was saying was like, I think maybe the best approach, like again, if they need some revenue here, you're trying to kind of straddle the line between getting some money in to keep the lights on and also not screw in the growth and engagement is like, splitting the days up on a major into different packages. So like what would be a world that I think everybody would be great for everyone is, yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're not platform exclusive, but Championship Sunday is on YouTube only. That's if we get to that spot, I think that's a good compromise that brings in revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, brings in revenue, gets everybody. I guess it kind of screws the Sunday watch parties, but it is what it is. But the slower days, the first 3 days, you get kind of stuff going on. I think if we can not get to full exclusivity and let's see kind of where. Again, this is not a done deal. Activision's announced it. Google has announced it. This is just based on reporting we're getting from Jacob Hale over at Deserto. But would love if we can kind of straddle the line because the full exclusivity is going to be bad for the community growth.
I was gonna say, well, someone said like, why do exclusivity deals do all platforms? Well, I mean, if you said $120 million, yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars talks pretty loud over some watch parties. Like
it's a package COD. So, I mean, I assume it's a package COD Overwatch thing. So
yeah, I get that, but like I don't know. I think what you said at least is like a fair where like they still because that money saves the CDL in a lot of ways too, and also makes the CDL go regular. Like that money is obviously probably necessary in many ways. Like that money is still not like bad, but yeah, to completely like kill like the potential. I just think if they go to YouTube exclusively, like there's no potential growth in the esport anymore. I feel like it really hurts it a lot, like a lot. At least the way I view it. Like I don't know.
Can I speak on something that someone put in the chat? Wait, Ben is teching like Activision needs the revenue to keep the lights on. Here's the deal, though. You got to think about with big corporations like this that they're individual business units within the company, and you got to understand on the Activision side the upside of taking a deal with another large corporation for 9 or 8 figures, but also it kind of self-funds that business unit without, say, the marketing support, which traditionally happens in esports and publishers, right? Which is what funds the esports program is the marketing support around new title releases or just the game in general. Like you want to get to a point where the league itself is generating enough revenue that it's self-sufficient and they don't need other parts of the company to bring in that money in order to keep the lights on. So I think that's like the unfortunate calculus that happens here. And again, those aren't, I see people taking on Twitter, some people taking shots at like DanGhosty. I don't think that Daniel definitely has some input on this decision, but it's not, Daniel can't make this decision. They are a public company with a pretty big C-suite. Like there are people way above Daniel that are going to make that decision. If that's the amount, like again, this is the last deal they have was 120, the last one with Google. If we're in that same ballpark, even if we're in an 8-figure ballpark, like yeah, it's going to be kind of a little bit out of their hands. So hopefully the ownership groups were able to kind of move this conversation. And I assume if this is happening for Major 3, we got to get some kind of news this week. I think.
Wait, it's happening that soon, you think?
If it's happening that soon, I would say Optic. I would say from an Optic end, I wouldn't be surprised if they would very much not want this to happen until after their major. Before Major 4 would be perfect for them. But let's see. kind of what happens with the story because we haven't gotten an update on it in about a week and a half. So um, that's on that, and that'll be both an Overwatch and a Call of Duty thing. Chris, you
Yeah,
have more
I hope
time, or do you got to bounce?
I kind of got to bounce, but I was going to say that I hope they don't do it full exclusivity because I think that really hurts the growth. And again, like the long term view, I think that's like the most important thing. I think if they found a compromise, I guess that'd be the best of both worlds. I don't know, but I'm biasly speaking, I want it on Twitch. I like watching when Scump does watch parties, when Zuma does watch parties, when all those guys do watch parties. Like I'll bounce around and I end up watching with those guys just because like the live reactions to the experience of that's cooler. Like again, seeing 50, 60, 70,000 people, like, and then like, 10, 20,000 people in Zuma stream, like all those people watching like other teams that, for example, aren't FaZe teams when Zuma is watching it and aren't Optic teams when like Seth's watching it sometimes. Like, again, that's really good for a lot of players' growth, and I think that's super underrated. So I really, really hope we don't go down that route again because I think that hurts our growth like tremendously, and I think that's like the best for the long term. I guess what you said is not a bad compromise, but yeah, I don't know. I hope not. I don't want to see that shit. I like the dude, the whole like COD vibe right now. I feel like the CDL. I think everyone would agree in the chat probably, but I feel like this is the first time in the CDL, at least for me. I feel like the shit's like lit. Like don't get me wrong, the CDL has been pretty cool for the last couple of years for sure. But like, I feel like
right now, yeah.
But I feel like it's fucking dope. Like I just feel like there's so much content and so much good shit happening. Like there's so much viewership. Like I feel like it's just like, I don't know. I love the atmosphere of like the CDL right now, and I feel like that would really kill the momentum, and that would like kill me inside, bro. I don't know. So
Agree, Chris. So we'll stay on top of that. I know you got to bounce.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. This has been our second episode of Scrap Time. Obviously, check both Chris and I out on Twitch and on social media as well. We need to get like a Twitter account for the show.
Yeah, we're gonna do everything. Yeah,
do all that. But appreciate you guys sticking around. We're gonna be doing these every Monday, so stop by next Monday. We're breaking down the first week of matches, hopefully with some guests. Chris, you have a good one. Hope you enjoy scrims, and I'll see you on the next episode, brother.
Yes, sir. Are you going live?
Yep.
All right, Ben is yours. Ben _ on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
All right, everyone, go to Ben's stream. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I gotta bounce. But yeah, this will be up on YouTube. This will be timestamped. It'll be up on Spotify and all that stuff. And then I appreciate all you guys supporting me and Ben in the podcast. Have a great day. Go show some love to Ben, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Later, homies.